So we've made some great progress with the basket here, and it's really starting to take shape. And you know, getting these binds is perhaps one of the kind of most time-consuming elements of it. Getting it to bind properly. When we put a new cane in, we want to get a fitting that is nice and secure, but also partly secluded. I know when I first started out making baskets, some of my knots were a little bit, shall we say, bulky, a bit clumsy. And I can't say they're much better now, but the more practice you get at this, the tighter you'll get those binds. And you're also looking to just fashion the bit of the cane as well, just to make that bind, get it nice and slender, so that you can manipulate it around the previous bit of cane. And as I say, this is something that just takes practice, really. Here we go. Let's go in here, like so. And this is the only time at which we come through the work with the needle. Rather than threading back into the needle, we're going with the needle like that. Okay, so we do that. And have a nice long bit of cane there, well, nice bit of cane to work with. And then we get our other needle, our spindle needle, and we put that in like so. And you can see this is where the angle of this needle really comes in handy, because it sits beautifully within the basket. Okay, and that's then helping me to just carry this piece of cane through that needle. Okay, so I've come through there. And now what I want to do to lock off, the needle comes in over here, like so. And we go back across and underneath there. There we are. Once we're under there, we're good. We can take that out, and then we can just pull this tight. And this cane I've got here, I've had it quite wet. I've just let it dry out a little bit, so it's getting a little bit stiffer. Right, and then we can pull that tight. And there we go, we're back on. And so far, I'm quite pleased with this work. I mean, I have to say, I'm not overly pleased with the straw. It's not been a nice material to work with, and I haven't worked with it in quite a while, and there's a reason for that. I'm not a big fan of it. I sometimes find it a bit stiff and a bit brittle, and it doesn't quite want to work like some of the softer grasses that I tend to enjoy working more with. But you know, it's a handy material. As ever, keeping it stocked is one of the things you have to keep reminding yourself to do, because when you're stitching away you can sort of drift off, and I don't think I've gone too thin there, but it's always healthy just to keep that nice and well stocked here. And the angle of my needle was changed as I started coming up the sides. Okay, the angle of the needle was like so, something like that. And now I'm doing the walls of the basket. I'm perpendicular to the work again, because I'm carrying those walls straight up at the moment, probably for another few coils. And then what I'll do, as I start to just bring the coiling in and round, which is what I want to do, okay, I'll probably just start bringing the needle like that at that angle. So we'll start working at that angle. So far it's got a nice shape. Okay, it is a bit rustic, but I have to say, I'm really happy with this. It's bound really tight. It's a good stiff bit of basket. And oftentimes, you know, the basket is really just the product of the rhythm. And if you can get into a rhythm and just beaver away and really feel that rhythm come to light. And you know, I actually at one point I did adopt a sort of mantra of stitch, stitch, feed, stitch, stitch, feed, tighten, stitch, feed, stitch, stitch, feed, tighten. So if you get a mantra together, it's quite useful, because it does keep you in check. And just make sure that you're adhering to a nice rhythm as you're working. And then what you find, if you get that rhythm right, okay, it'll be reflected in the basket. You'll get a patterning, a natural patterning in the basket. Of course, if one element of your rhythm is wrong, that will throw you out. But hopefully you'll pick up on that. I mean, one of the things I always used to get wrong is the feeding of the straw in. Just not doing it at the right time, and also not binding it, putting my thumb in there, just securing the straw before I take the cane over like that. It's always a useful thing to do, just to tuck it in there. So here we go. And once you get going, can actually be quite a quick process, and in a few hours you can make a substantial bit of basket. But as you've seen, working with some of these hedgerow materials, most of the work is involved in securing the materials, cutting them, processing them and preparing them for the work. And I'm quite happy with the materials we've produced here. You know, it was an eclectic bunch of bramble that came into this shed, and you can see in the walls of the basket here you've got different thicknesses of bramble, and some of the thickness is actually in the depth of the wood, some of it's in the width of the wood. There's slightly different colouring as well. So it's all part of the charm. Okay, so we're just going to go for the tie off here, and I'm just being really gentle with this cane. There's some manipulation here of the cane just to make sure all the binds are nice and tight. This one here is a bit loose, so I'm just going to push that through. Okay, push it through there, and that one's come loose there, so we've gone back one there. So roll it over the top, manipulate that bind over the top, and as I do that it'll just push through there, which then means I can pull it tight with the end. Okay, and the locking off actually of the end of the cane is probably one of the trickiest parts here of this bind. So what we want to do here is come under there like so, and then I might just prepare this bit of cane here just to take that wood there. Right, there we are, let's just take that like that. Just going to prepare that. That's now going to go underneath and through the needle, which it has done quite nicely. This can be really, really fiddly, you know, when you first start out. It's really frustrating and fiddly. And it still is for me. I still find this a tricky thing. Right, so I want to maintain the tightness of the bind. So we're just going to pull that through like so, get that nice and tight, and my fingers, the back end of the basket, are just holding that in place, holding that really nice and tight. Okay, and we'll just pull that through like so, and then what we're going to do is we're going to pull the tip of our bit of cane through, and slowly that's going to tighten the knot up. But then what I do with the thumb is I take the thumb and I just push that across, because that's how, where I want the bind, that's how tight I want the bind. Okay, and that's bound up lovely and tightly. And then if we just take this end off like so, there we go, and we're ready to go again.